Ghosts. Ghouls. Things that go bump in the night. There's a kind of adrenaline rush that comes along with a good ghost story. And there's a reason for this. Ghost stories survive to us from across time and around the world. Every culture on Earth, from the Amazonian rainforest to the taiga in Russia, has its own ghost stories. Often, societies use ghost stories to reinforce their own values. To figure out what makes a society tick, it often helps to look at what makes that same society frightened. Join us as we uncover the medieval phantasmic to find out what the restless dead of the Middle Ages tell us about the anxieties of the living.
When I first came here, it had a reputation as a haunted place.
This is not what you would want as your burial for this period. It's completely outside the norm.
It's a very, very visual reminder of the stark reality of the death that will come to them.
When you look at different cultures around the world, people have been pretty much ghost hunting since the dawn of time.
I'm slightly freaked out now, so I guess that we should go explore a little more. If I were to say the words haunted castle to you, your mind would probably conjure up an image something like this. This is Chillingham Castle. And even the name sounds like something fantastic I've made up specifically to talk about ghosts. But I assure you this location has a long and storied history. In the 12th century, it was the home to a monastery. By the 13th century, because of increasing incursions from Scottish forces, this castle was built. Edward I, the Hammer of the Scots, led his Scottish campaigns from this location. Over the years, it's been host to royals, been home to several noble families, but now it's probably best known as the home to dozens of ghosts. But unlike other medieval ghost stories, these ones come to us from a little later in time. The first recorded accounts of the ghosts of Chillingham Castle were penned by Lady Leonora Tankerville. She moved here from the US after marrying the Earl of Tankerville in 1895, during what was something of a golden age for ghost stories. Imagine an American interested in medieval ghosts. The Victorian and Edwardian eras were a time of great modernization and secularism, with major shifts away from religious explanations of the natural world. But the flip side of all this worldly rationalism was that it actually increased interest in the occult and spiritualism. Ghost stories were a hugely popular part of fiction as people became increasingly interested in the paranormal, seances, and finding different ways of interacting with the dead. Places like Chillingham found themselves in the middle of this spiritualist revival. Sherlock Holmes author and notable believer in the supernatural, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, wrote to Lady Tankerville to commend her reports of the Chillingham ghosts. From the 15th century onwards, the castle had been a seat of the Grey, Bennet, and later Tankerville families. I met with its current owner, married to a member of the original Grey family, Sir Humphrey, who has taken great care in the castle renovations.
This great castle was built really to keep the Scots out of England. It began being one strong tower, and in the 1200s, 1300s, they built 3 more towers, and then they built between the towers for the king to come and stay, to make it into a worthwhile palace. And so in this room here, you see ancient tower there, and this room just built between for the king and the rooms above. So it's been like that ever since, really.
You know, with so much battle and action and so much back and forth, you know, on the Scottish borders here, it's really no wonder, I think, that we get so many reports of ghosts.
In the 18th century, there was a figure who spent his time wailing and moaning and shimmering in blue. Digging between the castle walls, join up 2 rooms, they found the bones of a child and they buried it, and that solved that problem. But when I restored that room, my guests kept saying, "You must have electric fault there because there's a flash of blue on the edge of the door." Well, there's no electrics there at all. We must have left a toe bone or a knee bone. When I first came here, it had a reputation as a haunted place. There was a lovely priest who was one of the family. He said, well, look, I go all around the country getting rid of ghosts, so I'll do that.
Yep.
And so he came along, and next morning he said, there's too many, I can't deal with them.
So that sounds fairly creepy. And it seems that the ghosts Leonora documented over 100 years ago are still hanging around and causing trouble for today's residents. I wanted to hear more about the ghosts that Leonora wrote about when she lived here, so I've gone to meet Richard, Chillingham's resident ghost hunter. So we are here in this absolutely gorgeous medieval castle. I hear that it is allegedly one of the most haunted castles in England, if not Europe.
I would agree.
About how many ghosts do we think are here in Chillingham?
About 50 that I know of.
50, okay, that's a lot. What periods do we think that they come from?
A lot of the ghosts in here go back to medieval times, and indeed it became the home of the torturers back in the day.
But I can't tell if I'm excited or scared, but one way or another, can you show me?
Absolutely. Let's go.
So we're here in this gorgeous little medieval chapel. I've noticed these wonderful little medieval oxen who are holding up the roof beams. You've got this really interesting kind of carving in the wall back here. But it's a chapel and you're telling me there's ghosts here.
The famous ghost in this chapel is a young girl, 8 years old. Her bones were found under the floor. When she was buried, this wasn't consecrated because the original chapel moved in the castle from one side to another.
Oh, so she got buried here. It later became a chapel. Ah, I see. Okay, so that is very medieval of her.
It's very medieval of her.
I love that. Moving through the castle, we enter the Grand Hall.
Welcome to our lovely medieval Great Hall.
I love this room. If I was a medieval ghost, this is exactly where I would be hanging out.
In here, in the top corner, we often get Lady Mary Barclay. She likes to walk the top part of this hall, and she manifests herself with the smell of roses, and if you're really lucky, a little wafting chill to go with it.
Heading further up into the tower, we come to a room with a more regal appearance.
This is where King Edward I stayed on his way to engage with William Wallace at the Battle of Falkirk in 1298. The wonderful Gothic window behind me, that was installed for Edward I's visit.
You can really see that this kind of is a room fit for a king. You've got gorgeous natural light, you've got really high ceilings, incredibly detailed woodwork. You know, it feels really royal.
Oh, indeed.
You know, Richard, I've been looking a lot lately at these medieval accounts of ghosts. And so obviously medieval people really feel the need to explain ghosts, they want to record them, they need to get out into the world the fact that these ghosts exist. So ghost hunting certainly has existed for quite some time, but obviously the way that we do it now is a lot different to, you know, waiting for a damned soul to come and ask their brother-in-law for help.
People have been pretty much ghost hunting since the dawn of time. There's always been an interest. When you look at different cultures around the world, it's an absolutely fascinating subject.
I want to find out how Richard finds these ghosts. So he shows me some of the tools of the ghost hunting trade.
These are divining rods or dowsing rods.
This is a term I know. Though what you do with them, I have no idea.
I have a pair especially for you.
Amazing, okay.
Take hold of the rods. Okay, now what you need the rods to do, keep them about 10 inches or so apart, nice and level.
Okay.
Ask the spirits in the room to move the rods for you, see what happens.
Okay, if there's any spirits in the room who want to move the rods for me, give me a go. Oh, girl. No.
There's the right one going.
No, it's scary.
There's the right one going.
Maybe I didn't want to know this. Spirits, should I stay here tonight? Look, they're both moving.
They're both moving. Oh, look at this. Look at this.
These guys. I'm slightly freaked out now. Thank you, spirits. That was very kind of you to chat. I'm not 100% sold on the dowsing rods, but in using them, Richard is upholding a hundreds of years old practice that wouldn't have raised too many eyebrows in the Middle Ages, before it was banned by the church in the 1500s.
And welcome to John Sage's Paradise, the Torture Chamber.
Richard, I'm going to hand it to you. This is officially very spooky. Good job. Other than, our friends here, how would you recommend that we go about doing some ghost hunting in the torture chamber?
I will bring out another little thing, the K2 meter. So, any spirits known to me in the torture chamber, if you could please use your energy and communicate with the device in my right hand by any way, shape or form, please. And there we go, we've had an instant reaction. Are you a man? A woman?
Oh.
Oh, okay. Are you Madeline? Are you Elizabeth? How about that?
Well, Richard, thank you very much. This has been sufficiently creepy, and with this, I'm going to make my way off the property now that it is night.
Oh, Eleanor, I really don't think you should do that. You have the permission to stay the night.
I was hoping you'd forgotten about that. With the permission to stay the night from my phantom hosts, I prepare to settle in for a night in Britain's most haunted castle, and hopefully no more encounters from beyond the grave.
Thanks for watching this video on the History Hit YouTube channel. You can subscribe right here to make sure you don't miss any of our great films that are coming out. Or if you are a true history fan, check out our special dedicated history channel, historyhit.tv. You're going to love it.